All right, good afternoon, public. I want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching the program from. Welcome to another broadcast of the High Net Worth Investors Guide. In the event that you're joining us for the first time, the High Net Worth Investors Guide stands on four pillars. One, on this platform, you will learn what it takes to prepare yourself for success. So there's a broad ecosystem for us to go into over a period of time. You will learn that once you prepare yourself, how to apply yourself after success. Because one of the things that we see is that very often you prepare yourself for success, but then if you don't apply yourself, it undermines how far you can go with your success story. Now, once you apply yourself, you will be in the right way. You will definitely, yeah, you will definitely achieve your objective. So once you achieve that, how do you manage it? So we talk a lot about how do you apply the right management tools to keep your earn. And last but not least, on the platform, we will talk about ways to expand your financial gains, your business gains, because the last thing you want to do is to be stagnant. So we'll do a deep dive into those content over a period of time. But with me today to support in the conversation today, we have one of our newest guests, newest partner. But she's not new. Myself and Jamil, we have been doing a lot of talking for a few months now. And I find her to be a very dynamic person in her field. Jamil is the owner manager for Just Your Broker. So she's operating out of New York. So if you are in business and you are dealing with shipping goods around the world and you don't have all of the know-how in terms of that, Jamil is one of the go-to person to help you with those type of logistics. So we have Jamil. I'm going to come right back to Jamil. We have Paul, who needs no introduction. Paul is one of the famous guys.
Yeah.
He's the guy to say you are approved. So Paul is the guy that ensures that you get access to the capital to move your vision forward. And we'll hear from Paul just now. And we have Peter. Peter is the guy that say, if you don't have your master plan, you haven't start living. All right. You need your master plan to be anchored, to be focused. So with that being said, I just want to turn some attention to Jamil and to give her a chance to introduce herself and tell us a little bit more about your operation, Jamil. What does what should the public know about Just Your Broker?
So Just Your Broker Inc. is a customs brokerage. We provide a nationwide import-export customs clearance. So anyone traveling with, I'll tell you some of the products I clear: pets like dogs, a motorcycle. It could be food products, different types of food, clothes, any items that you would import or export. You would reach out to someone like me, and I would research the regulations, maybe see if you need a permit, see if you have to file your importer security filing for any ocean shipments. And I basically just help you through the process to make sure you're in compliance with government regulations so you can clear your goods as smooth as possible. So that's pretty much what I do. Oh, you're on mute, Gary.
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. Love that. Tell us a little bit about your experience in your field. How long have you been in this field?
I've been in the industry since 2016. I work for other customs brokers. I've also worked for an importer, a couple importers. So that's my experience that I have. And then with my own business, I do like consulting, just really going through the nuts and bolts of the import process. So researching different types of commodities that I have never cleared before. So just understanding how to research is very important. And finding information, you can pretty much tackle any commodity.
Great. I love that you mentioned research. On this platform, we talk a lot about research and data. Paul, for those who might be joining us for the first time, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your portfolio?
Yes, thank you, Peter. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. My name is Paul Whitehouse, one of the owners of Patriot Business Finance Consultants. And to make a long story short, we help your business get the financing that it needs under the best terms and conditions and lowest cost of money. That would cover real estate financing, commercial and investment, equipment financing, factoring, purchase order financing, and we are essentially scouts for two investment bankers. So if you need to raise $10 million and above for either a startup or for growth capital for your business, then we can absolutely help you there. Thank you.
Gary, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, Peter, to you now. For those who might be joining us for the first time, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your portfolio?
Certainly, certainly, and welcome to all our listeners. My name is Peter Gus Scott Senior. I We operate through one of our brands, Legacy Chronicles, which is a publishing assistance program where we empower individuals to transform their life story, their biography, or their professional knowledge, their life experiences into books, courses, training materials that can be converted into seminars, conferences that will empower their community and to pass on even just the legacy or the legacy of their life to their expertise to their marketplace, or even just simply might be a grandparent or parent who want to pass on their knowledge and their life experiences to the next generation. And we have a simple process by which we do that. But to tie that all together, one of the primary things that we want our community to understand is the importance of planning and the importance of taking responsibility for the gifts and the abilities that we have. The world has become so much of a problematic place now. But what we do find is that the problems that is in our world is simply because people are kind of misplaced in their focus where life is concerned. And so our simple contribution that we want to make to life is to assist individuals to discover their purpose, discover their passion, and to understand that even their pain, even the most painful experiences that we have, if we package it correctly, there is somebody who can learn from our life experiences. And so we design what we call the personal life master plan, which can be extended into the family life master plan, going into a community life master plan. And at the end, we can have a corporate life master plan. So those four dimensions of self mastery, we build our message on that so that individuals can, at the end of the day, we can go in the box feeling that we have made a contribution to our community. And, we find that at every level of life, mastery or having a plan can contribute so much to what we do and the impact that we have. And we find it fulfilling in doing so.
All right, thanks for that share, Peter. I want to jumpstart today's conversation by asking uh, a question, or more so reflecting on a survey we have done a few years ago. We have first of all asked ourselves the question, what is the fastest way to cash flow your brand? Jamil, she is in the brokerage industry, Paul, financial industry. Peter, you're into uh, life skill and professional development. Um, And over the years, what I've seen is that many businesses struggle to grow and scale. In fact, what the data is showing is that 20% of business startup fail in the first year, uh, 4 to 5% fail by year five, 6 to 5% fail by year 10, and only 25% survive to reach the 15-year cycle. And what I've seen, the survival rate of most businesses will depend on their ability to cash flow. So the big question we ask yourself, what is the fastest way to cash flow in that business? Is it 3 to 6 months? It is 6 months to 1 year. And as we ask ourselves this question also, what we've also recognized is that as you get into business, it's important to pause a bit and ask yourself, what is the real cost of doing business? Because the ability of that business to cash flow um, is not just on setting the timeline. We have seen a number of things that are essential contributors to that business cash flow. And I'm just going to examine four of those main factors. You may agree or you may disagree. One of the things that we have looked at that is essential to help a business to cash flow is what we call leadership acquisition. Perhaps as we go into the program, I will explain what is the leadership acquisition. The second factor that we see is essential to help a business cash flow is client acquisition. In the absence of clients, you don't have cash flow. Jamil spoke early on about data, and we see a third factor is data acquisition. And the fourth factor is what we call the capital acquisition. Um, we had asked many of the persons in our survey that we have done years ago, what is the shortest path to cash flow optimization or the fastest way to cash flow your brand? Is it leadership? Is it client? Is it data? Or is it capital acquisition? So perhaps we can have a broad conversation around this to really do that deep dive into it. I can also share with you some of the findings that we have discovered coming out of that research that we have done within several countries to really do a proper diagnostic in terms of why some businesses succeed and why some fail. Um, Let me just give us some perspective on what I would have said early on. In terms of leadership acquisition is a broad term in the context in which we have developed this thesis. We look first of all at the organization chart because to manage an organization properly, you need to have some attention on the organization chart. Now, when you look at the organization chart, there's three things that should stand out. One is your strategic leadership. That's your board of directors, your investors, and your tactical leadership. These are your senior managers, middle managers, and we look at also operational leadership. We believe that taking the time to really understand what this really means in terms of leadership, all right, the leadership acquisition is also vital to the success of a business. You see, if you're in business and then you don't have this ecosystem built out properly, it could undermine the speed in which you position that business to cash flow optimize. You need the team, you need the team dynamics. The challenge that we had with many of the persons we did the interview with, um, many would say that while you need a team, we need a capital acquisition because you need capital to move the vision forward. But we find also that what happened is that many institutions that even get access to the capital that don't have access to the data, you don't know how to leverage that capital in a way that really makes smart business. So I know I trust the topic in itself, the experience that I've shared. You might be able to relate it and perhaps bring your own spin on the fastest way to cash flow your brand. Um, so I'm going to open it up there, and then I'm going to go deeper into some of the findings that I would have found.
Can I jump in, Gary?
Definitely, Paul.
Just taking a few notes on everything you said, and I'll just read them off bullet points. Obviously, you have to get clients for cash flow. If you don't, then you don't. You have to keep the clients happy, and you have to have repeat buyers. Leadership is required. That's the first ingredient, because you need that in order to get the clients, to set the plan in place to get your clients. You need leadership in order to find the best capital, or find it at all. And then you have to be a leader and collect and analyze the data and put that into effect. I think it boils down to the individual owner, because do you have a master plan? Do you have a plan to get capitalized? And can you adjust and take a different angle on what you're doing if it's not working? Because I think some people have a hard time adjusting, and other people can just snap their fingers and turn at a different degree. All that is important to get cash flow, and different businesses get cash flow in different ways. I mean, if you buy a pizza shop and you walk into it on day one, you're cash flowing day one. But if you open a manufacturing facility, then you're not cash flowing on day one. You're going to have time to manufacture the product, put it on the truck, send it to your buyer, give them an invoice, and wait 30 days. And if that's the case, then you definitely have to have a plan when you open a manufacturing facility. And that plan has to include having cash reserves, having debt coverage separate from your revenue. The revenue is going to come in, best case scenario, 45, 60 days. May take you a week or 2 weeks to manufacture the product or perform your service, and then you send the invoice, and you're definitely going to wait 30 days. You might wait 45 or 60, depends on when they pay the invoice. So if you have a pizza shop, you got cash flow immediately. If you are doing what I just described, then you have to have debt coverage set aside to pay the bills while you wait for revenue to come in.
All right. Thanks for that share, Paul. Um, who want to chime in? Peter or Jamil?
Ladies before gentlemen.
I should have said that. Now I feel bad. I jumped right in. That's rotten of me. Thanks for showing me up, Peter.
I'm just hiding, Paul. I'm just hiding. That's what I'm trying to do. You see, you said a lot a while ago, so I'm taking notes, and I want to steal some notes from Janelle as well. So
he pulls the ladies first card, and you're right. It is ladies first. I am sorry.
All right, let me jump in, Paul. Let me jump in. All right, so the situation is that I kind of look at it from the standpoint of entrepreneurship, and because my focus is to help entrepreneurs. Can I just ask a question, guys? My view, my camera is it clear?
Yeah, there's a blur. Yeah.
Looks like you're breathing heavy.
Okay, I'm not sure what is happening. I think the camera lens. I don't
Probably just need to wipe it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what is happening. All right, I'll fix that in a minute. Let me just make the point, and then I'll fix it in a minute. Yeah, I tend to, because I deal with entrepreneurs, individuals who are just want to turn their skill sets and their talents into a business. And so what I've found, that the research that I've done over the years showed that there are a few levels that a person has to go through in order to make that transition into entrepreneurship. So if we should just look at a triangle with a point down, or a pyramid with a point down, which as you said a while ago, Paul, leadership, everything is going to start with leadership. And then, because that is the person looking at themselves to say that they want to solve a problem that they see in the community, so they will have to do the research and the development. They'll have to do the research and the development, and then from that they will have to test it through research and development. If it is viable, then they will start to market. If it is marketable, there's enough customer to satisfy that idea to become a business. Then they will have to now go into marketing, to get everybody to know what their product and their services are. And then the end result is that marketing will turn into sales. And then that sales would now turn, once sales are coming in, they're going to need to have help. So there will has to be some kind of a management structure coming in to help with the sale, because up to that point it is just the entrepreneur himself or herself doing all that work. So now he will have to need some levels of assistance, because more customers are coming in. Then after that management structure is set up, then then accounting, now that customers are coming in, now they're going to need keep proper records, so that the business now can run. Then customers are coming in, then the customers will have to be serviced. And once the customers are being serviced, then the last level will be customer retention, customer service, and then customer retention to keep the customers that we do have. So, the question that Gary is asking is we have leadership acquisition, client acquisition, data acquisition, capital acquisition. And I will agree with you that depending on what kind of a business is being done, then it's kind of different. On the entrepreneurial level, and many of the persons who might be listening to us, it is maybe they are that person who is coming in as a single entrepreneurial person who wants to just turn their idea into a business. And I will still agree with you. I will still agree with you that the fastest way to cash flow, is always going to be getting the client. It's always going to be the client, because even if we have investors, even if we have somebody, for an entrepreneur to ask for, you'll go to your friends and your family to help you to fund this project. The project, for it to be a business, because even when we ask somebody to fund us, then we will have to repay. We're going to make a promise to to friends and family, and the promise is going to be based upon that. Okay, if this operation is successful, I will repay you. So I would think, and this is it, I would think now that we have to use that kind of whatever capital we have. We want to do the do all the researches, but then we need to have, if it's a business any at all, customer acquisition, client acquisition is going to be very, very important. Cash flow, for cash to really flow, the customer, will have to get the customer coming in as fast as possible, so that we can have, if we don't have customers, we really don't have a business. So that's my take on it, Garrett. So back to you now.
I think you're on mute, Gary.
Yes, sorry about that. I seems to be muting myself out today. Um, Thanks for that share, Peter and Paul. And I do believe that coming out of the research, I can share it with you, right? Um, what we have found is that the leadership, the leadership acquisition, um, trumps the capital, trumps the data, and trumps the client. And just let me share with you why. From the analysis that we see to acquire client, in most cases, you need the capital to pay for human resources, to run your radio ads, your television ads. So, in the absence of the capital, it undermines the client acquisition. Here, the other side that we have seen, um, some might want to say, hey, the capital is important also, but you may have the capital as we have seen, but then the data acquisition, who is your ideal client, where to find them, best way to place your ads to appeal to your ideal client. If you don't have the data, you may have the capital, but then you don't have the data to inform how that capital is spent. Um, from the research, what we have seen is that the leadership acquisition is not one of the above. The leadership acquisition helps you to, uh, well, let me explain what a leadership acquisition is. The leadership acquisition is the entire organization. And if you are taken away from the clue I've mentioned, in starting an organization, a business, you want to first of all understand what is your corporate structure. Your corporate structure represents everything that you said just now, Peter. Everything that you said. Uh, it represents your CFO. It represents your public relation. It represents marketing. And all of this comes under the leadership acquisition. And once the organization gets started in the right way, and Paul would have hinted at this, leadership is vital. If the leadership composition is not right, all right, if the leadership composition is not right, it can undermine that business potential to cash flow. Now, at the strategic level, one of the things that we have seen many businesses has done, they attract to the executive body a financial specialist like Paul. So that person takes a board in the seat. So when it comes to capital acquisition, because that person is on the board, it fixed the capital acquisition issue. The next thing that we see some of the companies would have done, they bring in a data specialist, a research specialist, and they have them sit on the board, leadership acquisition. And because they have this type of expertise on the board, guess what? That person is able to function based on data. All right. So the leadership acquisition we find to be something that many rising stars in business tend not to look at. So I just share that with you. So perhaps moving forward, you can bring your frame of thoughts around this. Um, Jamil, what are your thoughts? What is the fastest way to cash flow your business and your experience?
I still think it's clients, only because the methods that I use involve securing the client through like different platforms. There's a little bit of marketing with it. So I've gotten clients from, I'll tell you some of the places I've gotten clients from, like Reddit. So Reddit's like a forum where you can like give feedback. Like I'm a customs broker, so I'm usually in the customs broker forums. I give feedback on like regulations and stuff like that. I've secured about 3 clients through Reddit. So the last one recently just left me a Google review. Um, I'm able to keep the client with my leadership and stuff like that, but getting the clients from the beginning, I think that's like you have to secure the clients. I think the leadership does play into a part with it to keep them. because you have to conduct yourself a certain way, I would say, to keep them. But I think the more clients is better because you can get other people on your team as well to help you secure more clients. But you have to focus on the client. I think it has to be client based.
Okay. Well, I began to smile how the conversation has actually turned out because I think so far Peter and Jamil agree on client, and so far we also have myself and Paul agreeing on the leadership. Um, what I'm bringing is the data that we have found, but I love your position, Strand, because I think Peter alluded to this. Um, if you're able to connect with our client, it is perhaps the fastest and only way to cash flow the business, all right, through the client. So I can understand why there could be this strong view that the client is important. But I just want to be the devil's advocate just a little bit. Um, what source are we using to identify with that client? How are we uh, extracting data and analyzing data that this is the ideal client? Now, the reason I want to just push here a little bit, because to get to the client, you need data. And I love, Jamil, that you would have said that you go to a published platform, an established platform, and you were able to extract the client for that. So because you might have gone to this published platform, it reduced your cost of client acquisition. Um, so I love that. But I still believe that while the client is no, we are not hitting the client. But the reason I'm going to go with leadership is because leadership says that we don't need one. Leadership acquisition is not saying all I need is capital acquisition, or it's not saying all I need is the data acquisition, or it's not saying all I need is the client acquisition. Leadership acquisition is saying for me to cash flow my business um, in the fastest manner, I really need all of them. I really need all of them because the capital is going to help you to collect data. The data is going to help you to better understand the client, and the better understanding of the client is what's going to help the business to cash flow. But as we go into this, Jamil, can we talk just a little bit more about your industry? Because I've never really dived into your industry a whole lot, and I know that you have so much to share on your platform. Can you help us to understand your industry a little bit more um, as we build our talking points around this subject?
Well, I would say, in reference to what we're talking about, determining um, what the needs of the client is. Like, if it's a new importer, I spend more time explaining everything, and I don't use like all the acronyms in the industry because they don't know what it means. So,
Hmm.
just understanding how experienced the client is. So, if they tell me they never imported before, I know we're going to spend at least an hour talking over all the stuff they need to know. I'll ask them like their mode of transportations because I know if it's an ocean shipment, I know that they have to do their importer security filing. I make sure they know that if you don't file it on time, you'll get a $5,000 penalty. So I explain that to them so they understand the importance of the timing. So it's like I would tell them a minimum of 24 hours before it goes on the vessel to file that. So I'll get that filled out from their seller or freight forwarder and then send it over to me right away. So I just communicate with them a lot of details that they need. Depending on their mode of transportation, I have to find out more details. Do they need me to arrange trucking for them? And then I have like a list of questions that I send them so that I can coordinate the trucking for them based on how they answer the questions. Like if it's temperature requirements, next day delivery. What else is there? There is like let's see. any special requirement, like if they need a lift gate because they're going to a residential area, like a residential home. So I asked like a lot of questions just to find out the best way to coordinate everything. What else could there be? Mode of transportation. If they've never imported before, more than likely they don't have a bond. So I always ask them, how many times per year are you going to import? So I tell them generally, if it's more than 3 times a year, then you may need to get a continuous bond because it's going to last for the year and it'll save you money in the end. I tell them if it's just a one-time shipment, then get a single entry bond. So it all depends on like how frequent their shipments are, mode of transportation, if they need trucking. Um, what else could there be? So document requirements. So if you need a commercial invoice, I give them I have an invoice checklist. So I call it the general invoice requirements checklist. So I send that when I speak to the importer so they can go over to make sure these are all the key points that need to be on the invoice. So that's another thing they can just send to their supplier, and they should use it as a checklist, make sure everything's on there. So things that are important on the invoice is like country of origin, like where the goods are made, because in the U.S. here, when Trump was in power, he made the what is the section 301 duties. So that's the extra China duty. So everything coming from China is usually like an extra 25%. Some of them are like 7.5%, I think now. So I always have to make sure like country of origin is very important because customs checks for that because you may be required to pay more money. So sometimes I'll tell them, it's always good to do this before you ship your goods, because if you do it after, you may end up spending way more money than you need to because the country that it's shipping from has all these extra duties. There's also things such as anti-dumping duties and countervailing duties, which is basically some countries, they cut the value of their price so low that U.S. companies can't compete, so that the government here in the US will impose higher duty rates on that item so that they can kind of balance it out. So there's so many things depending on how new they're in the industry, and that's how I customize how to educate them. And that's the best thing I think I do that secure clients, like on Reddit. It's all through education how I get a lot of my clients. So I had another client that I got through Yelp, and she was importing plants. I think she was using DHL before. So when she reached out to me, I had to she said it would take her like 10 days to get her plants. And plants tend to be like a temperature requirement. So I was like, oh, it doesn't take 10 days. I could do that quicker. So it's just coordinating the process, how to get the process down. And then knowing, like I said, if I know that she needs delivery arrangements, I can contact a trucker in advance. If not, then, she would arrange to pick it up herself. So as long as I know what the importer's needs are, and I ask them all these detailed questions, I know how to coordinate everything for them. I've had one importer who said he wanted like communication just to know what's going on. That's one of the things that sometimes they'll reach out to the bigger customs brokers. They don't have the time to communicate with them and let them know if there's any issues. I think communication helps you keep your clients because they just want to know if there's any issues. So if something comes up, I'll just send a quick email. Hey, there's delays. Or one time, the lady with the plants, one time her plants didn't come the paperwork arrived a day before the actual plants arrived. So I would call them over the phone. They told me the plants were there. The trucker gets there and find that the plants never arrived. So I communicate to the client, let them know, hey, the plants didn't arrive. We only have the paperwork. I think when you communicate, people like, okay, kind of put you at ease. You don't have to worry. Like, oh, it's being taken care of. So people are less inclined to be panicking because it's all a new process to them. And I think when you don't know what's going on, you kind of freak out. So that's how I'm able to keep my clients. Like if you read my last Google review, it was a really great review. I basically advocated for my client. I actually helped him coordinated with the freight forwarder, but then the freight forwarder is being a little difficult and sending an invoice a month later with additional charges. He never communicated the charges. So I'm like, how am I going to explain this to the importer that I have to collect more money because we already collected the money in advance? And I'm like, all he had to do, if the freight forwarder just communicated with me and told me I could have your back, it's not a problem. But when you don't communicate, people don't like surprises. So communication helps you. And then he became nasty, but I'm like, all you had to do is just send me a quick email and I would have covered whatever the issue was. I would have explained it to the importer, but I'm like, I can't really cover you if you don't tell me anything. And then you send me an invoice with a higher bill a month later. That's not going to go over well. So the importer was very upset, and then he decided to include the freight forwarder, and it just became messy. So I'm like, that could have been avoided if you just communicated. So
Mm.
communication, I think you keep your clients by communicating. Everything I do a lot of my communication through email. Even when I do calls with them over the phone, I jot down a lot of the information on like my phone or on my computer, and then they usually like, oh, can you, I was planning to write it up anyway, so I just jot down like little notes here and there, and then when I write the email is very detailed, so that pretty much everything we discussed over the phone, they have it in writing too. I
Mhm.
tell them it's going to be a lot of information, so read through the whole thing and then ask me the questions because it's a lot to take in. So I try to explain it over the phone and then explain it again through the email because I can, a lot of stuff I just remember because I do it all the time. So it's easy for me to just find, and I send them video links sometimes. Maybe web links to FDA. I just do a lot of communication, and like the communication, I think, is the key. That's what I feel. Communication and education.
Mhm.
And education.
Mhm.
Well, Jamil, I have, we have been talking for quite some time, and I know that you play a very instrumental role in educating your community about your field, and I think that is so important.
Mhm.
But let us talk some more about the client acquisition. Um, how easy it is for you in terms of client acquisition in your field. While I know that you play a tremendous role in information dissemination, because I've been a part of some of your communities, um, but in your field in particular, I know that you are a leader in your field. I know that you do a lot of the heavy lifting. But can we talk about the ease of um, client acquisition in your particular field?
Well, I think the biggest challenge for me, for what I've seen, is that because I'm much younger than probably a lot of people in the industry, I think some people won't take me seriously because I'm younger than a lot of the other customs brokers. So they'll be like, "Oh, you don't have enough experience." But the thing is, I had so much experience because I job hopped. So I learned so much stuff. And then I like to learn. So I do a lot of webinars. So that's how I'm able to educate people because I save all my webinars so I can always reference them back. Another thing I felt that was a challenge, I know it's like a male dominated industry. So that's another challenge I feel. So what I did was I joined women's organizations in my industry. I'm part of the organization Women in International Trade, the New York chapter. I'm the partnership co-chair. So that's something just to talk to other women in the industry. We've also discussed like the issues in the industry of being a woman. And sometimes people like, oh, they're expecting to speak to a guy, so that happens a lot too. And I'm like, well, no, it's I think my name looks kind of masculine. So in the email, if they see my picture, they're like, oh, they expect you to speak to a guy. And then I'm like, no, it's me. So I discuss with them. So that's like a challenge. But and I think just like, because different cultures, you're dealing with different cultures too. I think overseas it may be they're more used to speaking with men. So I don't know if it's like a thing. It's like culture they just prefer to speak to a man. And that's okay too. But I'm like, the fact is I'm here to save people money. So I'm like, education helps save you money. So I'm like, if you want to save money, then you come to me and I will help
Got
educate
you.
you. So that's one ways I feel that helps me. Um,
Yeah.
I do feel that when I do get clients, women especially, they have no problem working with me. Men don't always have a problem working with me. I think as long as I'm able to communicate with them, they don't really have an issue. Um, Too bad. It's just I think it's just a perception because most people are used to dealing with men in the industry. That's all it really is, I feel.
Um, your field, I know, is very dynamic.
Hmm.
Um, we had talked a lot about some of the initiatives that we are looking at, but we'll go into that later on. But I want to come to Paul a little bit because we have seen as a woman in business is challenging. Um, but Paul, how do you see capital and leadership dynamics can perhaps help Jamil to break through some of the challenges that she would have looked at? I can just give my surface view. I think with capital, she can definitely attract other team dynamics to her portfolio, and perhaps send those other team players out to move that process forward. But that's just my view. What are your view? What role does capital play and leadership play in can play in helping her to increase her clientele base?
Well, both of them are extremely and very important. In Jamil's field, I would say maybe leadership more so, and capital not far behind. Let me explain what I'm saying. Some industries, like me, for example, do I need a lot of capital? No, I'm not a manufacturing facility. Uh, you could really boil it down to I need a laptop, a pen and paper, and a
Mhm.
couple more things. In some industries, you don't need as much capital. Now, of course, we need capital for advertising, to draw the right people to us, to pay people working for us. But if we're talking specifically about Jamil's field, um, the
We can
capital,
generalize. We
okay,
can generalize.
okay, generalize then. Leadership's first. Leadership's first. Now, you need capital for certain things, and different industries are different. So, heck, I would even say they're so close that you need both. And you need leadership first, because without leadership, you won't know where to get it from. You might not even be able to be bold enough to take the steps or make the time to aggressively pursue what you need.
Thanks for that share, Paul. And I must give Jamil tremendous kudos. When I first started to learn about what Jamil is doing, I was impressed. She being a young woman also, I was really impressed. When I recognized the broad portfolio that comes under her umbrella. So, Jamil, I just want to give you a big shout out for doing what you're doing. And
Mhm.
Thank you.
on this platform, we would definitely want to reach out to persons who are in shipping in the event that you need to ship your goods from one country to the other. Jamil, she has tremendous experience. Yes, she is young, and yes, she is woman, but above being young and above being woman, she knows what she is doing. I have been working with Jamil for quite some time, and she knows the industry in and out to the extent that she is teaching persons how to navigate these platforms. And I know it because I've been on those platforms for quite some time with her, seeing how she's navigating that platform. So she's definitely a source to connect with. Moving forward, you're going to be hearing so much more about Jamil and what she's doing. Peter, I want to come to you now. I know that a lot of what we talked about today falls within a master plan. And we see when we talk about master plan is very broad because in Jamil case, she deals with value chain. She deals with getting your goods from one country to the other country safe, and so forth. So it's a lot of work. But we can shift a little bit now, Peter, and can we do a little deep dive into the importance of master planning? Right. I do see that to be successful in business, to be successful in life, you need that master plan. Paul talks a little bit about capital. He talks a bit about leadership. All of this is relevant to the master plan. But what are your take, Peter?
Yeah, Gary, and even as I was listening, yeah, the master planning, um, the subject matter is so dynamic because it is like the lifeblood of everything that we do. Because even as I was listening to Janelle, and she was, mentioning that she had to, how important communication is, how important it is for her to advocate, the importance of education. She mentioned, preparation of the prospect, somebody coming in for the first time into the shipping industry. They don't know what they're coming into, and so she have a process by which she educate them, and but she's able to do that because she has a broad she had to gain a broad understanding, which data data collection. She mentioned that she joined the women's organization within the a certain women's organization from which she was able to get some kind of support because it's a male dominated industry. And all of this is master planning coming together, because she has to have a broad understanding of what goes on into the industry, and then she has to collect all of that data and information to create the various processes by which able to engage our clientele and to balance herself even as a female. So all of that processing is what we're calling is what we call a master plan design. Because master planning is about acquiring the right information. It is like that blueprint, having that blueprint design even before we start the first step in doing anything at all. We want to be able to look back at what's happening before, do the proper research, understanding where we are now so that we can have adequate information to move forward into where we're going in the future and tomorrow. So master planning, having a personal life, everything, and it goes even to what you and Paul are talking about in terms of what is the fastest way to cash flow. So in a sense, to have that design, where that leadership design, that personal understanding of all the moving parts are going to fit together. It's like having all these pieces of jigsaw puzzles all over, and you begin to design, putting color coding, putting colors together, putting the end pieces together, and then you begin to, work your way through to see how the various pieces fits together. Master planning tends to do that. The operative word is master. The operative word is how do we take charge of all the moving parts, of all the elements that goes into making this operation a well-oiled machine. And we understand we have a basic yeah, and both a basic and a comprehensive understanding. Master planning, even where the comprehensive is concerned, we may not have all the information that is necessary, but master planning calls us to understand where the gaps are. And if we're going to actually move forward, then we can't move forward until we are able to fill the gaps. So master plan now then inform us, to okay, this is what is we're going to need. This is a kind of resource that we're gonna need. And so if I don't have it, then I will have to find somebody who has it. It's going to inform us, it's going to put us in proximity, because now that we know, when we know what are the essential components, then we're now able to recognize it when we are in place of it. But if we do not have a master plan, we don't know what we don't know, and then we don't know when we are in proximity, to make, to fill those gaps. So, master planning is so essential. And the better we come at it. And it's not master. And let me just close this point in saying this, that, we just have to start from where we are. Master planning is making the best use of the resources that we have now. And once we begin to utilize all that we have, then as we move along, as we gather more information, we become more enlightened. So it is a as you go, day by day approach. Every day we are asking ourselves the question, and the number one question that I like to say is the mastery of the master plan is the who am I, who are you kind of leadership, self-searching, examining the various components, then we build the pieces as we move forward.
All right, thanks for that share, Peter. I'm going to share a general view, and I would love to hear your take on it. Coming out of the research that we have done um, over the years, Peter, you mentioned a well-oiled machine. One of the things that we have seen is that for any business to function and function effectively, it is so important to understand the cost of doing business. And for that machine, that business as a machine to function effectively, knowing the cost of running the business and being able to take practical steps to achieve the cost to run that business is so important. The cost may represent hiring the right persons to fill your organization's chart. It may entails doing your branding, doing your marketing. It entails everything that it takes to run the business. But one of the things that we have seen in research is that the cost to successfully run a business is underestimated. And I find Paul would is talk a lot about the cost of capital. And people tend not to, um, want to accept the cost for capital. But I think that that's not the only thing that people don't want to, accept the cost of this, the cost of doing business. And I do believe that when you underestimate the cost of doing business, here is where you are having what I call tainted views of what it takes to be successful in business. One of the objectives here is to really get rising stars in business to study, examine, and know the cost of doing business, because this is what we believe can help you to be that high net worth investor. To start a business, if you're seeing yourself as, you know, a small person trying to get things done, struggling to get things done, you're most likely is not going to be successful. But if you start seeing yourself as a high net worth investor, because to start a business, it requires investing in human resource, technical resource, and capital resources. But if you don't see this and you're just seeing this as a hustle, it can significantly undermine how far you go in business. Um, in fact, what we are seeing again is that many businesses fail because of underestimating the total cost associated with doing business. Anyone want to share their views on that?
If I could just jump back in, Gary, because it is so true on every level. And the four dimensions that we communicate about where the master planning is concerned, you have the personal life mastery, you have the family life mastery, the community mastery, and the corporate mastery. And at every level, there is, well, us sitting here, there's a cost. Even just having this conversation, there is a cost for us being here. There is an opportunity cost. There is, what could we have been doing if we weren't here? So all of those goes into the dynamics. But something else, even where the personal life master plan is, and we talk to individuals about this at a personal level, which is applicable, as I said, to all the other levels. Because one of the issues that we communicate with our the persons is that there is a cost to life, and we can't get away from that. We cannot get around that in any way, shape, or form. For an individual to exist, there is a cost to life. There's a cost for living. And the sooner we come to understand that, the better it is. Now we are prepared to do the follow-up question. What is the cost for living? What is it going to cost for me to continue to exist? And then we can take that now into the family. Us, all of us have families, and the community is just families operating within a particular frame. What does it
Yeah,
cost?
yeah. I love the points, but there's a couple of things I want to share in quick based on the question I asked at the beginning of the program.
Mm-hmm.
Should it take 3 months, 3 to 6 months to cash flow a business, or should it take 6 months to a year to cash flow that business? Now, master planning is very important here because I do believe that when the master plan takes into consideration, again, your team dynamics, because this is your team dynamics, as Paul would have alluded to early on, that will influence how that business is structured to cash flow. And just let me give an explanation as to what I'm saying here. Just imagine that you are in uh, brokerage and you're the specialist in terms of handling all of the logistics in terms of how products get from one port to the next port. But that's your expertise. Now, within your team dynamics, you have a sales communication professional who understands your ideal client, and they have not only understand your ideal client, but they have a working relationship with multiple of companies who needs goods to move across border. And just think about having that person on your team, how much that added person into your team dynamics is going to help your business to cash flow, as against you not having this type of expertise on your side. Now, largely because you have this expertise, this type of leadership on your team, you're able to cash flow that operation before you say one, two, three.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, as we would always say on this program, it's not only about having team players to function in the organization, but it's perhaps having now the knowledge team players, the experienced team players, those that have the connections on your leadership team that can help that business to cash flow. Because cash flow, I mean, Peter, you mentioned, Jamel mentioned, is how we going to cash flow this business. What is the fastest route? You may have the systems, all right, you have the organization chart, but if you don't have the right people with the right knowledge, the right experience, to get out there with the social skills to help that business to cash flow. Those are all factors that influences the speed in which that business can cash flow. Does that resonate with anyone?
It does. Yeah. Can I add something based on what you guys are talking about, please?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, to answer your question, cash flow must underscore that be immediate or as immediate as possible, because without it, you're going to sink. And so cash flow must be immediate, or you must have the plan in place to be capitalized fully and prepared to pay the monthly obligations until you're cash flowing. And then how do you get there with leadership? I put together some weird analogies, but I'm just talking off what comes off the top of my head. Okay,
Mhm.
so a ship will not reach its destination without a captain. It'll drift. It's going to end up somewhere. You don't even know where it's going to end up at. It's going to end up somewhere though. But a captain's going to take it to where you want it to go. So the leader is the captain. What does the captain of the ship do? He's got a first mate. He's got a chain of command to where if he has a heart attack on the boat, somebody else is stepping in and taking over, right? There's a plan for everything with the captain slash leader. Um, the captain and the leader, they're responsible for everything, every single thing on a business. Your supplies, raw materials, safety, staffing, direction, discipline, guidance. So the captain's the leader, and your business is the ship. So you need a captain. You need to be the captain. I feel like I should stand up and do the Captain Morgan pose. Remember that commercial?
Yeah. No, I love that. And if you guys can recall, I believe it's last week. You finished, Paul?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Last week we spoke about this. I think that very often many rising stars get into business and not only underestimating the cost, but really underestimating what it takes to be successful in business. Last week we spoke, I think, about the importance of having a sponsor and what a sponsor does. Think about in your team dynamics, you have not just one sponsor, you have multiple sponsors who are helping you to connect the dots. Because I've seen businesses start, but because they have the right mentorship, the right coaching, the right support, the right sponsorship, they are able to drive the success of that business to the point of cash flow much, much easier. So there's so much of dynamics that comes into play to optimize the business success. And we all can agree that the playing field may not be equal. All right, the playing field may not be equal because a young rising star in business might have family and friends who are well connected. And because they have family and friends that are well connected, um, there's no way the average person can cash flow as fast as them. All right, so all of these dynamics comes into play. And again, this is why we talk about the importance of having the right relationships with the right people, the importance of investing in relationships. And there need to be a master plan around building healthy, productive relationship with the right people. Listening to what Jamil would have said, I know that strategies like that has to be fully exploited. She have connected with the women group, and I'm trusted within that community. You have a number of persons that stands out as your ideal client because that is what's going to really help the business to cash flow. It's not just the community, but is how relevant your brand is to that community that is going to drive the cash flow optimization and process. Our role on this platform is to ensure that we can give information, serve as a guide to help rising stars to make the right decision. On the point of mentorship and coaching, this program is sponsored by Global Capital Inc., but it's also sponsored by the Bestseller Portal. And one of the objectives of the Bestseller Portal is to represent our community in terms of mentorship, coaching, the right sponsorship. And that's why we are currently on the ground to attract between 5 to 10 million persons from across the world to the platform. So when we have any member of our community want to move in a particular direction with their operation, we can vouch for them and we can help them to get that support and to grow and scale. So I definitely want to say that this has been a dynamic conversation. And I want to ask Jamil again to talk to us some more about, your field. Um, so perhaps there may be persons that are listening that might be shipping, that might need some of your expertise. What is unique about among all the brokers that we have? I know that you have something that makes you different. Um, can you talk to us about that? I see in your portfolio you deal with things like audits, you deal with delivery of goods and custom brokerage. You deal with a whole lot.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what makes you different? Yeah.
I would say what makes me different is the education piece. That I work. My business is open late nights and weekends. Most customs brokers don't work weekends, so that's how I actually started clearing dogs a couple of years ago during the pandemic. So the fact that I'm available, and the availability is to help people that don't have access to the customs brokers and to get them. That's how I started clearing a motorcycle, and because I'm available during those times at nighttime because some people do work a full-time job and they're trying to get into importing and exporting. It's only a side gig. So they're not available till at nighttime. So the fact that I'm available at those times, I'm able to get focus more on the smaller businesses and help them. And that's what I've been doing in helping me get more clients. And like I said, education, I do spend a lot of time educating. So that's the best thing about it, I would say.
All right. And you're able to ship goods and receive goods from across the world. Am I correct?
Yeah, well, of course, there's always like if there's any restrictions, like I think there were some restrictions with Russia. I don't know. I'm sure they're still in place. So of course, it depends on what's going on in the world if there's any restrictions or not. But yeah, I can most definitely advise them on that. We can go over it. I can talk to freight forwarders on their behalf for them to try to see what price will work for them. I usually reach out to multiple freight forwarders, just having those partnerships, and then when they decide who they want to work with, I connect them directly so they can coordinate that. Having access to truckers in different places, different states, I'm able to reach out to truckers like, hey, can you handle this? So just I think the most important thing is your network and being able to reach out to your network when you need assistance with something that you don't provide, like trucking. I don't do trucking, but I coordinate with the trucker to deliver the goods. So having that network makes me able to do all these things that I need to do.
All right. So in other words, you don't only just um, guide the products, to the port. You ensure that it can be shipped to the destination of the ideal client by your
Mhm.
relationship with the trucking industry.
Yes. Based on
Um,
whatever their needs are. So if they like I had a client ask me last minute, they needed delivery over the weekend. Most truckers don't deliver on weekends. I spoke to my trucker and he delivered the goods on the weekends. The guy was a medical professional, so he wasn't going to be available. So we were able to coordinate a weekend delivery for him. So that's what I'm able to do. If you tell me what you need, I can talk to them and see if I can get it to happen.
Definitely. Well, Jamil, I want to thank you again for coming on today's broadcast. And moving forward, we're going to do a lot of planned programs. Today was more impromptu. We're going to do a lot of planned programs so we can go deeper into, our concepts. Paul, again, being the financial expert, can you talk to us a little bit about some of your financial instruments? So persons who might be in shipping but need access to capital to perhaps increase their shipping amount, um, you know, you know, or to perhaps strengthen their value chain. Um, I know that your field, being the financial expert, you can definitely add some value to that. Can you tell us a little bit about your financial tools?
Yeah, the two things come to mind immediately. Purchase order financing. So if there is a manufacturer and they get a large order, I'll just use Walmart for an example, but it can be any strong business. The buyer has to be strong and capable of paying the bill when it arrives. But if an American manufacturer is buying, let's say, solar panels from China, and they've got a buyer, they need to fulfill that order, but they don't have the cash to do it. Purchase order financing fits that bill. We connect you with a PO financing company. By the way, the client, if you're listening out there, you don't pay us for that. The PO financing company pays us for the service. And the PO financing company will pay the bill to manufacture the goods. They will pay all of the shipping, whatever it costs to get that order to your buyer. They'll take care of it for a fee, of course, but that fee gets paid at the end of it. You don't pay that fee up front. So purchase order financing is absolutely a great tool for importers. And as far as the truckers that would be picking up at the port and delivering, well, factoring is one thing that truckers use to get paid immediately on their invoice instead of waiting 30 or 45 or 60 days. And if business is increasing, then they need more trucks. That leads into equipment financing. And we do that through leasing. Leasing, when you hear, I mean, a lot of business people know that leasing means ownership. But if you don't know that, let me just tell you that leasing does mean ownership. That's how the biggest companies in the world obtain equipment for their business. They do not pay cash. they rarely bank finance it. And the reason that they choose equipment leasing is because there's tax advantages. Less money down to get into the equipment lease, tax advantages along the way. And so those are the things that come to mind right away when we're talking about what Jamil does.
Thanks, Paul. So if you're in the business world and again you are dealing with shipping, Jamil is one of our go-to person. She has the knowledge, she has the experience. You may need access to capital. Paul is one of our go-to person, and uh, with these two parties, you're fixing some of the challenges that you go through in business. We also have Peter, and Peter is the guy that's going to sit you down and he will talk to you about the master plan. You want to be able to see through your processes, and the only way to see through your processes, you need to have the master plan. But just before I come to Peter, while today we talk a little bit about the fastest way to cash flow your brand, Paul, we have talked about this many times. There are many financial or investors that will invest with you, but the challenge that they will ask you to reach is to sell 1 year of your inventory before they allocate certain amount of funding to you. That forces you to find creative, innovative ways to start to cash flow that business. And my belief is that if many rising stars in business go into business with this type of mindset, the fastest way to cash flow, looking at the team dynamics and everything that it takes to bring that business to cash flow, I believe that those businesses will be in a much better position of strength to be sustainable. Because what we are seeing, the inability to cash flow, is perhaps one of the major reasons why we see many businesses are, are dropping out of the market. So I just wanted to point out some of the things that we have talked about in previous program.
Mm-hmm.
Peter, all to you in terms of the master plan. Perhaps you may want to shine some more on how important master planning is, not only for the your personal life, your family life, your community life, but also for the corporate aspect. All to you, Peter.
Yeah, the corporate design, um, and it goes right into the leadership design that you have been communicating about. The having a corporate structure, um, the word, even the word corporate, it means body. It is the concept of having a body, a structure, and the agreements that individuals will come to formulate the operation of that corporate design. What taking it a little deeper than that, it has to do with credibility. Do we do what we say, and do we say what we mean? Am I a credible? Do I stand by my word? And that is what corporate is all about. When we project ourselves into the marketplace, can are we dependable? Can we be trusted? Do we have the likability factor? And taking those concepts into mind, it will position us. Now we have to actually plan. We have to create a design. We have to look at the resources that we do have, especially in the area of the leadership and the dynamics, the partnerships, the relationships that we are bringing together, the individuals that we're bringing together to create that design. Even as you're mentioning, Gary, about the fastest way to cash flow, and that's the concept. Because if an individual is in that position and he's now thinking what is the fastest way to cash flow, then he will need to understand, okay, I need this person to be on my team and what are the agreements that what can I give to that person. So if an entrepreneur, he doesn't have the resources thereabout, but the question is, what can I give in exchange to this for this skill to be on the team, which we're going to have create that agreement for that person to give off their services so that we all can benefit together. And it takes planning, it takes sorting through the pieces. It is going to take, spreading the pieces on, as I say, on the table, so that we can ask the right questions. We're going to plan the way through. It is seeing, the future, the possibilities thereabout, and then to see, okay, who can I bring about, and what word, what assurance can I give to this individual, that when we design this program together, we can also, the resources, or the return on the investment of their time, their talent, their specialty, how we're going to design that standard, that platform, that everybody will benefit. And I think, as I think through it, that leadership structure, that corporate design, that corporate structure, when we have that, and we build the agreements around that, it will take us to the end of where we want to go much faster.
All right. I like your share there, Peter, and you're right. I do believe one of the fastest ways in which we can help our businesses to optimize this cash flow is going to be on corporate structure and leadership relationship. I think everything rests on the shoulders of having the right relationships with critical stakeholders, because it's the ability to nurture healthy, productive relationship with the critical stakeholders that is going to really help us to, predetermine how fast we can get to that point of cash flow. Everything else being equal, because I do believe that having a strong value offer is vital. So if we say that we are shipping and we are brokerage, um, it must be an impeccable service. If we're saying that we are helping you to access capital, the ability to help the client access capital, perhaps at ease, perhaps at highly competitive rate, and these are all important factors. Outside of that is the leadership that comes with that. So I want to thank everyone for sitting with me today. And just before we go, I would ask everyone to give their closing remarks. You can use this time to talk some more about your brand, your business, and just to help the public to have a clearer understanding about you. And then we'll pull the curtain down on the program itself. I'm going to start with Paul, then I'm going to come to Jamil, and then to Peter. Paul, closing remarks. You're mute, Paul.
Boy, that makes all the difference in the world, doesn't it?
All the difference. You got it.
Patriot Business Finance Consultants, we would love to work with you. It's what we do. It's what we like to do. What you can expect from us is, I like, as Jamil says, because we do the same thing, education. We don't let you go through this process without making sure that you know every single thing about it. So patriotbfc.com, that's our website. All my contact information is on there. And we're ready to go to work for you and get you what you need. Thank you.
Awesome. Jamil?
Yes. So with me, of course, I love to personalize my service to your understanding of what you're what you're doing at the time. So if you guys reach out to me, my website is justourbroker.com, and I am available to you can email me or you can call me. Email's always best. So I can really sit down and break down the time available to you to explain everything that you need to know. Just tell me what your needs are in the email. That's about it. Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, I'm gonna say this. I work with Jamil a few times, and she goes overboard to ensure you get the information, and she puts her best foot forward to provide service. So definitely, it's a strong person for you to be in contact with to deal with all of your shipping needs. Peter,
Yeah. Was simply or let me look at it from the standpoint of where we are today, where our services are concerned at this time of the year. At every level, at a personal level, at a family level, at a community level, at a corporate level, individuals are looking back at, where we are now, what we have done the past year, and how can we do better moving into the future, into the new year. And what we like to say to our community, and it is something that I've learned from Tony Robbins, when he said that people usually underestimate what we can accomplish, or first of all, people overestimate what they can accomplish in 1 year, and they underestimate what they can accomplish in 5 years. And usually, how that works out is at this time of the year, individuals are thinking about, New Year's resolution, at every level, family, even corporate. Um, but then if we begin to have a bigger view than the politicians, just thinking in terms of 1 to 4 year terms, I would think that if we just expand to have a broader mastery of our time, of our resources, of our energies, I think we'll be able to have a better impact when we begin to think generationally long term. And how do we do that? How do we do that? Personally, we have a design that we're working on now. If individuals will go to mylegacyproject.net, we know we have a simple structure, 4 dimensions to master your life, where we just give basic understanding of how we can design a personal life master plan, which has its broader application to family, community, and corporate master plan. And with that, we encourage individuals to start working on, designing a bigger image, or a bigger plan, a more long-term focus on their approach to their time and their resources. And the My Legacy project is designed to assist individuals to do that.
all right, thanks for that share, Peter. In conclusion, I want to say this: regardless of where you are in the world, if you're thinking about starting your business, and especially starting a US based business, you might be in manufacturing already and you want to ship your products to the US. You want to integrate your products into the US market or perhaps other parts of the market, the world. As you can see, we have an expert here already that can help you with the shipping. What we do at Pitch Deck 101 LLC, Global Capital Inc., and 10X B&M LLC, we help you start your US based business, meaning that we get you registered with the Secretary of State. We work with you to get your EIN. We work with you to get your uh, PAYDEX score. We work with you to ensure that your business is properly set up. And of course, we talked today about the fastest way to cash flow your business. We will deploy a number of marketing strategies to ensure that we're giving you the kind of support to help your business to cash flow optimize within the shortest possible time. So now you don't have to worry about shipping. We have an expert here. You don't have to worry about access to capital. We have an expert here. You don't have to worry about the master plan. We have an expert here. You don't have to worry about setting up your US based business and having the entire ecosystem be taken care of because this is what we do. All right, but we have these type of conversation because we believe it's necessary, to have these conversation because you yourself might be having a conversation, you may not know how to navigate it, so having these conversations can definitely be thought stimulating. So I just want to share that little bit with you. We have a ecosystem of strong business support to help you navigate whatever challenges that you're dealing with in business. So with that being said, um, we will do this again next week, Saturday, the High Net Worth Investors Guide. And I want to encourage you to call a friend, tell a friend that what's going to be happening next week, because we're going to have some giveaways next week. And perhaps it might be in the dollar value. So keep looking at us, keep following us. There's going to be a lot of giveaways coming up to the Christmas season. So with that, I want to thank everyone for being here with us today. Remember, on Monday to Friday, we also host another program which is titled The Competitive Edge. And you want to join us on that platform to really understand what it takes to get the competitive edge in business and in life. So, with that being said, I want to thank the viewers from across the social media platform, from across the world, who has taken the time out to be here today. We truly appreciate that, and we'll do this again